going on YouTube? This is Broadsword Media coming to you today with Skyfall. Daniel Craig's second, I'm gonna go with second Bond film.
Yeah, exactly. I don't remember there being any Bond film between Casino Royale or Skyfall.
Not that I know of, no.
So the plot of this movie involves a former MI6 agent who's gone rogue and plans to kill M.
This agent, Raul Silva, is from M's past. Some bad stuff happened. Now he's out for revenge.
In this movie, James Bond himself actually gets shot and everyone presumes that he's dead.
MI6 is attacked, but you know it's funny, they never really explain why or how, they don't really go into it. This movie started out with a great chase scene. Okay, the thing about it was, what I loved was there was no actual shaky cam, right? Which you'll see in so many movies nowadays.
Yeah, especially the Bourne movies.
It was steady, and you know, obviously it was, you know, moving camera, so it was like that, but you could clearly see what was going on. So this movie, the thing about it is, it referenced a lot of the classic Bond. For instance, there were just kind of like a lot of scenes that were just like cram-packed in this movie, which I could have removed like many of them, right? And then it would just been the movie would float a lot better. For instance, when M was called in and, you know, they are saying, you know, we're retiring you, and she's saying, you know, you can't do that, I'm still in the middle of my job, you know, and it was just kind of like, to me it was almost like, but I've been in so many movies, right? And, I don't know, it was just packed with that.
Okay, well I'm gonna have to disagree. Like, I like that they finally referenced the classic Bond movies. They never really did that in any of the Daniel Craig movies. They seemed like they're just kind of trying to go in this like brand new direction that drifted them away from what James Bond originally used to be. And I didn't really like it when the old movies did that. I still love Casino Royale nonetheless. It's an amazing movie. But in this movie, I felt like Daniel Craig, I felt like he really was James Bond this time. He brought a new mix into it, as well as acting a lot more like the old classic Bond.
Here's the thing, is this movie wasn't made for me, right? It's clearly not. It was made for Bond fans, right? And Bond fans, they're gonna love this movie because there's all this stuff, plus this type of modern, take on Bond, right? It's like, it's taking the good stuff from Casino Royale and adding it to classic Bond, and that's what you get. And yeah, like I said, people are gonna love this movie.
Yeah.
If you're a Bond fan.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love this movie. It was definitely one of the best experiences I ever had watching a Bond movie. Almost comparable to, for me, almost comparable to Casino Royale. And quite frankly, very glad they took so long to actually make this movie, because the last one, which, you know, we said didn't exist, Quantum of Solace, was such a disaster. You know, exactly. Quantum of Solace, what's that? You know, so I'm glad he took so long to finally make another Bond movie and actually, for once, worked so hard on it. And this time, it came out quite well.
Specifically, what were your favorite parts as a traditional Bond enthusiast?
Well, I definitely liked how this time the bad guy wasn't like so easy. Like, I felt like in Quantum of Solace, referencing that a train wreck, I felt like in that the villain was just too easy to beat. You know.
Oh yeah.
In this movie, the villain was very smart, and just like in most good Bond movies, is usually a step ahead of him, and then Bond has to overcome nearly impossible odds. That's one thing I loved about this movie. And then I love that he was back to the traditional, always charming the sexy ladies, whether they're from especially being able to do so with the ladies who work with the bad guys, and charming them and getting information from them while also enjoying their bodies and everything too. I always liked that he can actually get together with a bad girl and not only seduce her, but get information from her as well.
Yeah, let's just talk about that. I guess the gambling casino scene, right? It's funny, that's another reference, is that, you know, you had this incredibly hot girl in this ridiculous, completely impractical, you know, over-the-top outfit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you don't normally see those in real life, but
Uh-huh.
it does seem to be a weird tradition in the Bond films. I mean, personally for me, since I've watched so many Bond movies, I kind of like it. It makes it, I feel like it's a little more expressive in a way, and I don't know, I guess a little more bold.
Here's the thing that's always confusing me with the Bond films is that Bond always told people that that's what it was named. Bond, James Bond, right? I'm a secret agent, I'm telling you my name. I don't know, to me it doesn't really make much sense. Bond, sure he does kill the people most of the time, but you know, his villains generally have associates and that can just lead to problems. You know, I don't know. It's a pet peeve of mine that I just don't really care for.
I guess for some reason in the Bond movies it just doesn't really affect him that way. I think it's probably because, you know, he's a secret agent. It's not like he's on TV where people would see him reveal his true identity or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it just doesn't affect him that way because he's so because he's a covert agent. You know, nobody really knows who he is unless he actually tells them.
Yeah, I've seen in other Bond films where people will actually figure out who he is. They're like, yeah, this is James Bond. Like Pierce Brosnan, World's Not Enough, right?
Yeah.
They know who he is, you know, from the beginning, and they're like, you're James Bond. You're going down. You know.
That's true.
It's just my problem. The thing about it is, there's nothing necessarily bad about the movie. It's just that there are these kind of, it's classic Bond. There's parts where it's not realistic. It's not practical. Mm-hmm. Things are happening, and it's just, you know.
But that's the thing about the Bond movies. They're not really meant to be realistic. Like every Bond movie I've seen, there's always like a bunch of action scenes in there that you would never see happen in real life, and that's the fun of the Bond movies. It's just out of this world.
With the exception of Casino Royale, because pretty much that was much more realistic, right?
That chase scene at the beginning, though, most people wouldn't be able to do what those guys did. Jump across, what was it, I don't remember what it was, but it was that huge jump to that crane or whatever.
Uh-huh.
You know, that's
well, yeah, well, most people would, but he's Bond, and you can make a case where, you know, this guy's trained. I mean, these people are trained, you know, ridiculous. But for the most part, you know, that movie really stays on point, and it's like, okay, these are a series of believable yet kind of extraordinary, right? It's kind of like Bond doing what he does, but in the most ideal way possible, opposed to more of a supernatural or ridiculous way. So anyway, that's my thing.
So now let's go to ratings. Personally, I love this movie. This was one of my favorite Bond movies I ever seen. It's up there with Casino Royale. I think it's better than all of the Pierce Brosnan ones, and some of those are pretty good. Like GoldenEye was an awesome movie. Had a rogue agent in that movie too. And like I said, as for ratings, I'm giving this a 9.7.
Yeah, I did not like this movie as much. Here's the thing, there's nothing wrong with it. It was shot great cast, great acting. There's nothing really that bad. The thing about it is, it was just, like I said, it was packed full of all those classic Bond references, which I could have just done without. So I'm going with a 7.5, which brings our average to 8.6.
Yeah, so I highly recommend this movie. Give it a go, especially if you're a big-time Bond fan.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us what is your favorite Bond. Me personally, I would have to go with Daniel Craig, hands down.
Yeah, I love Daniel Craig. He's definitely one of my favorites, but I think my favorite's actually Roger Moore. I've watched his movies the most.